All right, well, I have another Magnavox ZV427MG9. This one was sent to me from Colorado. Here's what it does. Right off the bat, once again, everyone say it with me. I'm suspecting power supply caps. Let's go ahead and get it open and take a look inside. Okay, so I have the top off of the unit. This thing is mint. It is absolutely spotless inside. I'm not sure it's ever played more than a couple of tapes, but it's in really good shape. So let's go ahead and take the DVD unit out. I've already got the 4 screws out of the DVD mechanism. And so I can just simply lift the unit up and out. And what do I see right off the bat? There is the top of the 4700 microfarad filter capacitor. It's the main 5-volt reference power supply. Look at that bulge right on the top. Definitely bad. Let's try to get a different angle on that. Yeah, I would say that is definitely the culprit. So let's go ahead and pull the power supply out of this unit. Once again, we'll go ahead and ESR all the capacitors. I will unsolder the positive leads as I normally do, and we'll check every capacitor on this board to make sure that the rest of them are okay. Okay, so I've taken the 4 screws out right here. So the power supply board is technically loose, but I need to unplug this ribbon cable. Just grab it and lift up very gently, and it just pops out of the retainer. Then the complete power supply board can be lifted up and out of the unit. Okay, so several people have asked me, why do I unsolder the positive leads of these capacitors when I check them in circuit? And so this is a classic pi filter. It's a low pass network. And what this does is, if you can imagine, this is the switching transformer right here. There's the rectifier diode. And normally they don't use a full wave bridge rectifier. Normally they use a half wave rectifier. At a high frequency, it's very much acceptable. And so the pulses come into this capacitor and they're smooth. And then through this inductor, it only allows low frequencies to pass, and then it's filtered once again through this C2 capacitor. So let's just say that C1 is defective and it's open. This inductor right here would allow this capacitor to have a very high AC ripple on this. And typically they will take this point right here and send it off to the closed loop feedback to regulate the voltage. So if there's a tremendous amount of ripple on this one capacitor right here, once it passes this inductor, this capacitor is going to smooth it out, and you're going to have an average output, which is much lower than the expected output. If I check this capacitor in circuit and it's actually defective, this inductor, because I'm measuring it almost at DC level, is going to effectively short this capacitor back to this capacitor. So if I don't unsolder the positive leads of both of these capacitors, I don't get a true reading as to which capacitor is actually defective. So that's why I always unsolder the positive leads of these capacitors when I'm checking them in circuit. So I hope that clears up any confusion. Okay, so I've got the board out. All the positive leads are unsoldered. I'm going to verify lead integrity. So first, I did not unsolder the main AC filter cap. Pretty close to 0. I'm pretty happy with that. This is the bootstrap cap. These are not in a pi output filter configuration. Just under 4 ohms, and that's a 10 microfarad capacitor. Perfectly happy with that. That one's about 3.5 ohms. That's a 10 microfarad. That's perfectly fine. 0, good. Pretty close to 0. 0. And about a 1/4 ohm. That's a 470. I'm pretty good with the 1/4 ohm on that one. Pretty close to 0. That one's about 1 ohm. Let's see what the value is on that guy. That's a 22 microfarad. That is perfectly fine. And 1 ohm, that's another 22 microfarad cap. Perfectly fine. 0. And about a 1/2 ohm. That's a 220. It might be suspect, but I think I'm going to let that one slide. And about 1 ohm, another 220, I think that's going to be just fine. And then we're back around at the one main filter cap. So that's checking the pad, making sure there's no other capacitors across that one. And that one reads 1.5, almost 1 3/4 ohms. Definitely bad. That's the problem right there. Let me grab a brand new one and we'll check that one. So I've ordered a assortment of, I call them Magnavox ZV4X7 because they go in the 427s and the 457 MG9 caps. It's just a bunch of different caps, mainly used in the DVD recorder unit. So all sorts of different caps. But I did order a bunch of the original 4700 microfarad 6.3 volt caps. And these are good quality Nichicon capacitors. 105 degrees Celsius. So once again, let's go ahead and verify lead integrity is 0, and yes it is. And we'll go ahead and check this guy, and we see 0 ohms. That's what we should see. So let's go ahead and slap this one in, and then we'll go ahead and try the unit. Chances are the mode select switch is going to need to be serviced as well. So as you can see, physically they are exactly the same size. I've had problems in the past with these capacitors actually fitting in the location because I didn't have the exact ones. I went ahead and ordered the exact replacement caps. These original ones are Intercon 85 degrees Celsius. Come on, Funai Symphonic that made this for Magnavox. You can't use 85 degrees Celsius caps in a switch mode power supply. What are you guys thinking? Anyhow, as you can see, 105 degrees Celsius capacitors. These are once again very good quality Nichicon replacement capacitors. So let's get that put in there and fire it up and see what happens. Okay, the new capacitor is soldered in place. All the other caps are resoldered, even though I didn't unsolder the main AC filter cap and the bootstrap cap. So I think we're going to be good. Everything fits perfectly. The new cap is a perfect fit for this board. Like I said, I measured the old ones, and these new ones fit absolutely perfectly in their place. Plus, they're a much, much higher quality capacitor than the originals. And so you may ask, why don't I replace all the caps? Well, I've never, ever had another capacitor failure on this board. It's always been that main 4700 microfarad filter cap. So let's go ahead and put it back in, and we'll go ahead and give it a try. Once again, we may have to tear it apart and clean the mode select switch. I'm not sure until we get this thing up and running once again. Okay, so here we go. Power on. It loads the tape. It appears to be playing the tape satisfactorily. Let's stop it. See if it will rewind. Fast forward. Wow, it looks great. Let's eject it one time. We'll pop the tape back in it and see if it plays. That's absolutely perfect. The mode select switch appears to be in excellent condition in this one. Look at that. Maybe that's all it needed was the main filter cap replaced. This customer is going to be very happy because he's going to get a very low repair bill. So let's try the DVD player now and see if it plays a DVD. Okay, so let's put a disc in it and see if it's going to read the disc. I'm going to move the microphone very close to the DVD mechanism so you can hear what it sounds like when it works correctly. So those are the sounds it should make when it's going to play correctly, especially the two little beeps you hear out of it. The boop boop, boop boop. If it doesn't make those sounds, that's a problem. So let me go ahead and get this hooked back up to a monitor, and I'll make sure it plays the disc correctly. Oh my gosh, there it is. Absolutely playing perfectly on the DVD. Okay, so this is a VHS tape that I copied to DVD. I actually recorded this when I lived in Southern California back in the 90s. So yeah, the DVD is working perfectly. Let's go ahead and service the tape path of the VCR mechanism. Once again, a cotton swab moistened with the magical solution acetone. And I'm just going to go ahead and clean everything the tape comes in contact with, including the video heads, with, yes, a cotton swab, because those that say I can't do it, I'm going to prove you wrong, and have been proving you wrong since the early 80s. So I'm going to speed this up so it doesn't take so long. Okay, done with the VCR mechanism. Let's go ahead and clean the real rotation detector as well as the infrared emitter, the prism assembly, and the infrared receivers for both the supply and take-up over here. Okay, so I've moved the camera back a little bit so it doesn't quite get in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one Phillips screw right here. And then I can lift the prism assembly out of the way completely. Next, I've got a cotton swab and I've removed some of the swabbing from each end. So I'm just going to moisten this with regular Windex type glass cleaner. And I'm going to go ahead and clean the infrared emitter. And then through this hole, I'm going to clean the real rotation receiver. Now, if this gear lifts off, don't worry about it because it's retained. Then with the dry end, I'll dry off the emitter and I'll dry off the receiver as well. And I'm going to go ahead and wipe off the input portion of the prism, the exit portion, and we'll dry those too. And then I just want to wipe off the faces of the prism assembly. Dry those off as well. Go ahead and get that remounted back in here. Get the screw back in it. Next, I just want to go ahead and wipe off the face of the supply detection. This detects the clear leader when the tape is at the end. And then I'll dry it off as well. And we'll do the same thing to the take-up little infrared receiver. Wipe off the face of it. And then dry it off too. Okay, so on to the DVD mechanism and cleaning the optical pickup. Start by removing these 3 screws right here. Once you've got those out, just go ahead and unplug these 2 connectors right here. They just pull out. There's no special locking mechanism. Like I've talked about in the past, do not unplug this connector except in extreme circumstances because this removes the ESD, the electrostatic discharge component that the main board has, and it can damage the optical pickup laser diode. So I'm just going to move the cord out of the way. I've already got the screw out in the back here. I'm just going to lift this up and fold it over to the side. Next, I want to remove this one screw right here. We'll get this bracket up and out of the way. Now to get this big shiny metal cover off, it's got 4 tabs. Just push the tabs in. The tabs on the left move to the right. The tabs on the right move to the left. Once that's done, Just pull this cover up and out of the way. There is the optical pickup. All right, here is a close-up view of the optical pickup itself. So I've got a cotton swab, just moistened with regular glass cleaner, nothing with ammonia, just regular Windex or generic thereof. I'm just going to very lightly scrub this in a circular motion. I'm not putting much pressure on this unit at all. I'm going to take the dry end and do the exact same just to dry it, and you notice I'm rotating the cotton swab while I'm doing it so it always has a fresh dry surface against the lens. Okay, optical pickup is cleaned. Let's go ahead and put it back together now, and we'll put the disc in it and just verify that it plays it back correctly. We'll make sure the VHS tape works, and then we'll get this one boxed up and shipped back to the customer in Colorado. So yes, I know someone's going to ask, did you check the capacitors in the DVD reader writer circuit board? And yes, I did. This must be a different version than the other ones were. Maybe this is a earlier or a later production model, but every capacitor in here checks absolutely perfectly. I wouldn't have even have thought of trying to make a DVD if any of these checked bad. But like I said, this might be a early or a late version. I'm not sure which, compared to the other ones that had a bunch of bad capacitors, but every capacitor on this board checks absolutely perfectly. Alright, so these are some of the videos I made when I lived back in Southern California back in the 90s. Good old-fashioned police chases. I wish they would air things like this much more. Anyhow, that's the DVD playing. Let me go ahead and switch over to the VHS right now, and we'll hit play on that. It's the same tape, just another police chase. So anyhow, it's playing absolutely perfectly. The VHS plays great, the DVD plays great. I need to make sure that the DVD actually records. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a tape to DVD recording, and we'll go ahead and come back once it's finished, and we'll see if it goes ahead and records. I may have to service the DVD player as well. Okay, so here we go. I've got my general settings set for auto chapter every 5 minutes, auto finalize when the disc is full, dubbing mode, VCR to DVD, and make recording compatible on. So I have a tape in here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the dubbing button. There we go. We're going to copy this tape over to the DVD, and then once it's done, we'll go ahead and play it back. Make sure it plays back correctly. Alright, it loaded the disc okay. Let's go ahead and have it play that first chapter right there. There it is. All the caps are good on the DVD board. The VCR just went ahead and cleaned it, serviced the rotation detector, the prism, cleaned the heads, the entire tape path, cleaned the DVD optical pickup. And the main problem was that one filter capacitor in the power supply was bad. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. It really does help my channel grow. Remember, you can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at NorCal715. You can email me, norcal715videos@gmail.com. Go ahead, leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below. I try to read all the questions and respond when I have time. Remember, with your help, we can try to keep these things out of the landfill, out of the recycle bin, and out of the e-waste facility. Everybody, once again, thank you for watching this video and making it to the end. I really do appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.